Figured I got a few minutes and I haven't uploaded a video in a while. I will talk more about the Bronco quick. For those of you that haven't seen what's going on, here's backstory and I'll make it quick. 1984 Ford Bronco XLT. Originally a 351 V8 with a C6 automatic, getting a 7.3 powerstroke diesel engine and a ZF 5-speed manual transmission. Front clip is laying over there. I was test fitting engine last night. I need to mount the transmission, but I'm waiting for a clutch kit before I do that. Last night I finished up the front suspension. I still got to build a track bar bracket and finish stitch welding some brackets to the frame. But other than that, the suspension's, a solid 98% done. We're going to kind of go into where the idea for the Bronco came from, what my original plan with it was, and where it's kind of gone, where I want to see it go down the road and in the future. So in 2020, we were dealing with COVID and everything. The Daytona truck meet in Daytona, Florida, had been postponed from its original date in June to September, which luckily at the time I was working for the co-op and we weren't busy at that time. But it gave me enough time to save some money up to be able to go. So my wife and I and my brother-in-law and sister piled in my F-150 EcoBoost I had at the time, and we went to Daytona, Florida for the truck meet. Kind of a vacation deal for us. I've always been into the truck scene, always wanted to go. I've never had anything that was good enough to be a show truck, but I always wanted to go. While we were down there, I saw a handful of Broncos that I thought were neat, and I've always loved the full-size Broncos. I had a 94 or 5, I don't remember what year it was, Bronco for a while, but it was kind of a turd. It needed a lot of work. Not to say this hasn't needed a lot of work as well, but I pedaled that down the road and eventually bought this. While we were down there, I saw some really high caliber builds. One of my favorite one was the Wiki Jeep. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to go to Instagram or I think YouTube. Maddie Lovejoy, Behind the Builds is one of their hashtags. It was like a 78 or 9 Jeep Cherokee Chief that they, completely did a resto mod on, had an LS motor in it. It was 4-linked on Super Duty axles and that whole 9 yards. Beautiful, beautiful Jeep. And I come back and I told my wife, man, I'd really like to build a Bronco, take to Daytona, have a show truck, something that's fun to cruise around, take to car shows and whatnot. When we got back from Daytona, I drove the mile down the road to my parents' neighbor's place where this Bronco had been sitting for, 7, 8 years, I bet. Made the deal, and that following March, I drove down and picked it up. When I bought this, the original plan was I had a 1985, and this is an 84, but I had a 1985 Ford F-350 that had the 1-ton Dana 60 solid axle under it, a 460 big block, and a 4-speed manual transmission. The original plan I had was I was going to have a fab shop, 4-link it, build me the brackets, and I was going to buy the coilovers. I was going to shove the big block 460 and 4-speed in it, use everything out of that 1-ton pickup as the donor. And I was going to do exactly what I've done so far, more or less, with the Bronco. I was going to have open headers, or long tube headers. I shouldn't say open headers. Long tube headers, 3-inch exhaust all the way to the back, dump it down with the axles, put a nice cam in it, give it some lope, and a little bit of power out of it, and make it a show truck. 4-linked coilovers on 1-ton axles. Put a nice set of 20s or 22s with 37s under it. And, I cut the running boards, Nerf bars that were on it off. And that was the plan. I was going to leave it basically the way it sits right now, body-wise, and take it down to the beach with, $3,000 set of wheels and tires on it and a big block and open headers and just have that be my show truck. And that was going to be for 2021. And then this year, 2022, the plan was to have had the entire body work done. All the rust fixed, a black freewheeling style Bronco that was a freewheeling beach vibe that I kind of nicknamed Free Beachin'. It was going to be the chromatic paint scheme that the freewheeling Broncos had, but with like palm trees and shit in it. I was going to take the top off, have a roll bar in it, have the interior all done for this year. But as a father and a husband with 3 kids and a wife at home, you know, if I was a single man, absolutely could have been done because I make enough money that I could have thrown it at that. But as a family man, I got to look at, you know, my responsibilities as an adult. So that was the plan, was to have a, you know, show truck built out of it. And I still plan to take it down to the Florida truck meet since they canceled it in Daytona and it's now in, I think, Miami. And it's gone a little bit of a different direction. I obviously sold the donor truck that I was originally going to use. I'm now sticking a 7.3 Power Stroke and a ZF speed manual in it. It's on Super Duty axles. It's not 4-linked. It's running the factory leaf springs from the Super Duty in the front, factory half-ton springs in the back. Still going to use, you know, keep the body, even though it's chock full of rust. But, you know, body work and stuff can happen later. The interior is rough, you know, but it's not terrible. It's rough, but not bad. It's a someday. Someday I'll get this done, you know. My goal was to, by the end of May, which it is currently the 18th of May, my goal was to have this thing running and driving by the end of May so that I could potentially have it roadworthy enough to take on a road trip and take down to the Florida truck meet in June. That's not happening. I hate to break it to people. I hate to break it to myself. There's just simply no fucking way that in the middle of June I'm going to go to this truck meet. First off, the suspension's 98% done. I still got to put shocks on it. Still got to mount the shock tower on this side. Still got to finish up stitch welding the spring shackle frame brackets on. I got to finish up some of that stuff. Got to build a track bar bracket for the Super Duty axle. I got to do brake lines yet. I got to put new shocks on it yet. I got to put new tires on it yet. I still got to physically mount the engine and the transmission into the frame rails of this thing. Got to get the drive shafts made. I'm still waiting on my wiring harness to show up. And then put carpeting kit back in it and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not too far away. You know, a good couple weekends with some buddies, I could probably get this thing done. I got a friend of mine who is a welder that, you know, that's what he does. He works in a fab shop, and that's what he does for a living. So, you know, it wouldn't take much. A good day of measuring and stuff, we could have the motor and trans brackets built and installed and, you know, run some fuel lines quick. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. Get the wiring harness here, get it wired up, you know. But there's still a lot of parts I got to buy, too. I got to get an alternator for the engine. I got to get a starter for the motor. I got to get a clutch kit yet. I need new valve cover harnesses because the reason this thing got parked was because one of the valve cover harnesses, and I want to say it was the left-hand bank. The Power Strokes have a plug in here and a plug in here, and then there's a harness underneath that goes to each individual injector under the valve cover. And then the reason I got parked was the one bank of injectors just quit firing. It was only running on 4 cylinders because the valve cover harness goes bad. It's typical. It happens. I need to get a vacuum pump on it. I need to order a new radiator yet. The front axle needs the lockouts put on it yet. I need new tie rod ends, probably ball joints, although they look decent. I know the drag link going up to the pitman arm needs replaced. I need a new belt for it, glow plug relay. Excuse me. I got to build an entire exhaust system yet because it's just open turbo right now. I haven't decided if I'm going to full 4-inch exhaust out the back with an axle dump or hood stack 4-inch exhaust with like a 5-inch stack tip out the hood. I haven't quite decided yet. The goal is to road trip this thing, so I don't know if a hood stack is quite exactly what I want to go with a wife and 3 kids. But maybe not. I don't know yet. But as of right now, that's where the Bronco sits. That's the information I can give you. You can check out my Instagram. I have a picture of what my dream for it was.